broadcast as we look at the latest here in the country and across the globe for the next 1 hour or so. We begin from right here in the country where the Court of Appeal has begun hearing an appeal by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission seeking to overturn a decision by the High Court declaring presidential results announced at the constituency level as final. IEBC in its memorandum has listed 23 grounds for appeal. It is a prayer of the electoral body that the court defines the difference between the announcement and declaration of results, among other issues. Opposition coalition, the National Super Alliance, has threatened to boycott the election if the IEBC appeal is granted.
There would never be an election in Kenya, presidential election, if the commission, the commission, did not tally, verify the count, then make a declaration on the results. That is the work of the commission.
After the counting, the IEBC. But now the definite article there is missing. Does that not change everything?
That an announcement of election results, as envisaged by the Constitution and the Elections Act, and the regulations made under the Elections Act, means the making election results publicly known. In respect of a declaration, we submit, my lords, that a declaration is a formal pronouncement in the electoral process by a person authorized either by the Constitution or the law.
And the problems that informed the Kriegler Commission was a case where results declared at the constituencies were different from results which were declared at the national level. It is in the Kriegler report. They have introduced it. I did not introduce it.
Let's now bring in KTN political affairs reporter Moremi Mwangi, who has been following proceedings for us at the Supreme Court. Moremi, good afternoon. What can you tell us from the first day of this two-day hearing of that IEBC appeal?
Well, good afternoon, Kitili. Indeed, it is an interesting day for the IEBC, for the National Super Alliance, as well as the government, which in this case is represented by the Attorney General in his capacity as the Chief Legal Advisor to the government. But of course, most importantly is to just delve into some of the arguments that were presented in court today. The IEBC, which had the first opportunity to present their case, the merits of their appeal, argued that the judges at the High Court misinterpreted the law in declaring that the finality of presidential results is at the constituency level, because for them they argue that the
Mic test 1, 2, 3, 4.
Not adequately interrogate the impact of Article 138 of the Constitution, which according to the IEBC is totally self-contained with regards to the manner in which presidential elections are conducted in Kenya. And they say that pursuant to that particular article, the IEBC argues that the presidential election begins with the voting, from the voting to the counting of the votes at the polling station, the announcement of those results at the polling station and subsequently at the constituency. But they argue that the finality of that particular election is at the national level, at the National Tallying Center, where IEBC, after verifying the results from the 290 constituency returning officers, can now make a final declaration on the winner. And they sought to make a distinction between announcement and declaration. And for them, according to the IEBC, they argue that announcement is just that making known of the total tally that has been arrived at, say, at the constituency level. But for them, declaration is the formal announcement of the winner, which gives closure to the entire presidential election. Similar arguments were fronted by Attorney General Professor Githu Muigai, who argues that the judges at the High Court did not adequately interrogate what ought to have been the spirit of the drafters of the Constitution in creating that particular distinction between Article 138, which according to him is what prescribes the process in the presidential election, and Article 86, which was largely relied upon by the judges, which is to do with the accuracy and verifiability of election results in Kenya. But besides that, the petitioners in the case of the High Court, who in this case are the respondents in the appeal by the IEBC, activists Maina Kiai, Helef Halifa, and Tirop Kitur, through their lawyer, they argued that IEBC as a corporate body delegates responsibilities to the subordinate staff, some of them being the constituency returning officers, and that these 290 constituency returning officers, in their capacity as representatives of IEBC at that level, can undertake the verification of results from the polling stations within the particular constituency, so that the results that are announced at the constituency level are presumed to be the final declaration of presidential results at that level. And therefore, ultimately, the IEBC at the national capacity cannot vary those particular results. Remember, the prescription of the High Court was that if there's any question regarding the tally from the constituency, that can only happen in an election court, in this case the Supreme Court, because it is the only court of original jurisdiction on presidential petitions. But to that, there was an interesting rebuttal from the Attorney General that creates the possibility of there being 290 presidential petitions, because the presumption from the judgment of the High Court is that the results from the constituencies are final, and therefore he says that with 290 possibilities of presidential election petitions, that causes in a way logistical nightmare to the courts and would be a recipe for chaos for the country, from the argument of the IEBC and the AG. Remember, constitutionally, the Supreme Court has 14 days to handle a presidential election petitions emanating from an election, and any petitioner has only 7 days to file those particular cases. Tomorrow will be the opportunity for the opposition under the National Super Alliance, represented by senior counsel Siaya Senator James Orengo, to argue their case, which of course is in support of the initial petition that was filed in court by the three activists. Ben.
Thanks, Moremi Mwangi there, coming to us live from our city center studios, and of course has been keeping an eye on these proceedings, the hearing of this appeal by the IEBC. We wait to see how that pans out. Will this end up at the Supreme Court? We shall be keeping tabs on that.